So I want to go over living better longer. I'm going to try to keep it down because baby's sleeping in the other room. So we're going to go over living better longer. We're going to go over the power of nine. We're going to go over blue zones, their diets, and then we're also going to go over the stages of change. There's 4 stages. All right, so start here, living better longer. So real quick, so there's levels of veganism, okay, or vegetarianism. So vegan is meat and then meat byproducts, so gluten, animal broths, and then animal byproducts such as eggs, dairy, and honey. So there's vegetarianism, which is meat byproducts, gluten or gelatin, I guess, in animal broths, and then there's also eggs. So ovu vegetarianism. So that is milk and cheese, and says it does consume eggs. So we have the lacto-uvu vegetarian. It does consume eggs and dairy. Then there's a poultarian, which is red meat, beef, lamb, pork, and venison. Then there's fish and seafood. It does consume poultry, eggs, and dairy. So then there's, I don't even know how to pronounce the last one. And so that consumes red meat, beef, lamb, pork, venison, poultry, and it does consume fish, seafood, eggs, and dairy. So I was just like we'll touch back on that later, and we'll kind of pinpoint where that kind of ties in. So blue zones. So there's 5 blue zones. All right. So pretty much blue zones are regions of the world that show that people live longer naturally, and this term was first found in 2005, and they kind of wanted to pinpoint on like why is it doing that, like what's going on. So we're going to kind of touch on each of those 5. So there's a place in Italy. It has the highest concentration of male centenarians, and this is pretty much sheep herders, and they tend to walk about 5 miles a day. And it also helps that in their genes they have a thing called M26 marker, which is a genetic variant. It's linked to extreme longevity, and it has been passed down through their little secluded community. And they also have a very, very high plant-based diet. Okinawa, Japan. This is a bonding in peak of Japanese culture, which means they're always in a tight group. These Okinawans have a moai, I guess it's called, and pretty much what that is a small, tight-knit social circle, and it's meant for their friends pretty much to be there for their ups and downs in their life, and in this result, they live longer. Many of the women in that area surpassing 100 years old, and they also have a high plant-based diet. And then there's a place in Costa Rica. People traditionally get the majority of their caloric intake from beans, squash, corn, and plus some tropical fruits. This is a plant-forward, nutrition-dense diet. They spend plenty of time in the outdoors. Meanwhile, their plan de viva, or guideline purpose, helps them stay mentally, spiritually, and fulfilled at the age of 90 and beyond. So, and this is our U.S. only blue zone, and this blue zone is a haven for Seventh-day Adventists, and it's a Protestant dominant religion area. So they pretty much share the same set of principles, and pretty much they believe in the 7th day of Sabbath. So what that means is a day of rest, reflection, and recharging. And many of them avoid meat, plenty of plants, and they get whole grains and nuts. So there's also a place in Greece. I think this is the last one. There's a sense of island pride it keeps these guys, and they invest heavily in their community. So this is combined with late bedtimes, but they also take naps periodically through the day. They really rely on Mediterranean diets. They eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and such, as like potatoes, and they use olive oils. So 1 in 3 of these people live to their 90s, so often free of dementia and chronic diseases. So it's not about just longevity, it's about living better longer. That's why it kind of ties it all in. So right now, here we're going to go over to our diets and the diets of these blue zones and what makes them live longer better. So our diets here, as you can tell, these are 47% whole grains, dairies. I'm not going to talk to you about the percentages, but you can see most of their diet here is whole grains, and this is why they live longer. Whole grains, then there's dairy and vegetables, and they have very few fruits, added fats, added sugars, legumes, and they have very few meat, fish, and poultry compared to the American diet. A lot of Americans are obese. Obviously, besides that one little small town who's also a blue zone. So this is the average American diet. So the average American diet has a lot of calories of fats and oils. All right, and we have a lot of grain production, meats and eggs and nuts. Kind of, it's protein, but there's also a way we should regulate it, and they have a lot of caloric intakes and sweeteners, dairy, and fruits and vegetables. They're kind of, the American diet's kind of all well balanced, except the vegetables is obviously the most important thing, and it's the least in an American diet. So we're going to go over the Power 9. So these 9 principles apply to people who live in blue zones, and these are the 9 things that they said through a study of each blue zone why they live longer. Okay, so move naturally. So when they move naturally, this finds a way so they can move more, and so they burn calories without thinking about it. I.e., in Greece there was the sheep herders, or in Greece there was the Mediterranean diet, the naturally plant-based supplements. They downshift, they reverse, they find a way to cope with their stress that works for them. For me personally, I go outside in the outdoors, and that also causes me to relax, calm down, take a deep breath. And they also, each of them have a purpose. A lot of these blue zones, even their older generation, they don't stop moving. They always have something to do. They find something with their time. Plants slant, so they eat less meat and way more plants. Wine at 5. They enjoy a glass of wine with good friends each day. So when you surround yourself with people you care about, it makes you pretty much live longer, as weird as it sounds. They invest time into the family, and this adds up to 6 years of their lifespan just by communicating, adding life with your family, showing the importance of that family bond, that family connection, giving you kind of a reason to live. So then there's the 80% rule. Now this is a big one, and I think a lot of Americans don't follow. So the 80% rule is don't eat until you're full, but eat until you're 80% full. So this causes you to calm down a little bit, and instead of walking around, you ever eat so much or you can't even sit down or drink any more water. That's not okay, that's not good, especially most Americans do that for dinner time. You want to do that if you're going to eat a lot. You want to eat a lot for breakfast, break your fast throughout the day. And then smaller meals should be for dinner. And find the right tribe, so surround yourself with people who support you and support your behaviors. You're only as good as the people you are around. So if you're around some Joe Schmo who, has really bad habits, getting into the wrong people or the wrong crowd, or doing something they shouldn't be doing, and you're associated with them, you're going to eventually kind of step on their path, and that's not going to be good for your overall longevity or your future, or just anything overall. So belong. So it says if you belong to a faith-based community, you can add up to 4 to 14 years on your life. So that gives you something to believe in, gives you something to work for. And as surprising as it sounds, for example, the place in California, the Protestants, where the 7th day is a day of rest and recovery and faith-based tradition, that really shows a lot, and it kind of keeps the people based on what they believe in and what they want to do. All right, so back to this. Did the vegetarians have it figured out? A lot of them, they don't consume much meat, much red meat, with cholesterol, high cholesterol. Maybe they had, instead of eating as much beef, you'll see a little bit of beef here, but they'll eat more venison and lamb, less fat in those types of meat, but they won't eat it as much. they'll kind of balance their diet, and you're only supposed to really eat 5% of your diet, which is maybe a day or two of eating meat. But you know, us Americans aren't very good. Me personally, I'm horrible at it. I eat meat every day for every meal. But you know, it's always something to work on. So what causes a habit? So there's 4 stages of a habit, okay? So we got cue, craving, response, reward, okay? So what we have here is for a cue, say your phone buzzes, okay? So your craving is like, man, I want her to text me. I want to check my phone out. So what your response is going to be, you're going to walk over, you're going to grab your phone and say, oh, it was just an ESPN notification. All right, you put it down, that was your reward. You feel like you don't have to look at your phone for that particular instance. So this is the cycle that it goes through: cue, craving, response, reward, and this just goes on a vicious cycle. Okay, so there is also good responses and then there's bad responses. For example, say, so a good response, we'll go with, I'm hungry. Okay, so that's your cue, stomach rumbles. Craving, I want some vegetables. I want to eat a snack, but I want to eat something healthy. So that's my craving. My response, I want to go to the kitchen, open the fridge, and I want to eat some broccoli. Okay, who eats broccoli all the time, like a snack? I don't know. But so then there's good, obviously, response, and then there's bad responses. So these are the good ones. So create a good habit, you make it obvious, you make it attractive, you make it easy, you make it satisfying. So say you don't like broccoli out of the fridge, so you're gonna steam the broccoli. Maybe you like steamed broccoli a little better, all right? So then, but there's also how to break a bad habit. So say I chew, for example, or I smoke a cigarette. So I'm gonna make it invisible. I'm gonna have a craving, I'm gonna say, no. I'm gonna make it unattractive. I'm gonna say to myself, do you know what? That's disgusting. I don't wanna spit in a bottle. There's chew everywhere. There's gunk in your teeth. It turns your teeth a different color. So you make it unattractive. You make it difficult. You make it difficult by saying you don't have it. You know, you don't want to hurt your bank account. I'm not going to go get it. And you make it unsatisfying. Then it makes it unsatisfying. So then you're not going to do it. All right. And that's how to break a bad habit. And I hope you guys learned something today. Thank you.